Okay, not a lot of injury news for you. Kind of the same cast. We continue to get guys back. Colin Holmes is not back yet, so we hope that he does. Butch continues to do a little bit more than he has been, and the receivers are as healthy as they've been. So we're getting some guys back. Dejon Harris had some foot issues today. Theron Collier with a shoulder issue, but other than that, today's practice was pretty healthy. I thought guys were just okay today, coming out. Our second practice of normal week setting, and so we need to continue to push through and continue to improve in the weak parts of our game.
Dejon with a foot?
Yes.
Sharice said that he had a little bit of sore hips, and you kind of told him to take it easy today? Or?
Well, we just want to make sure that we're managing our guys the best that we can, and our DBs and receivers have done a lot of running in camp, and as you look at our DBs preparing this week, those guys have a big game plan in, because all the spread offense that Hawaii does, so they're going to have to do a lot of running over these practices.
Anything going on with Mitch? It didn't seem like he did a lot of throwing in the latter half.
Yeah, he said that his rib there bothered him. He threw a corner out there, and the ball kind of came out weird, and he said he felt something in his rib, so we were very safe with that.
Who would be your number 3 guy if something happened to Matt, something happened to Mitch?
Dylan. He's not playing in any games, so we don't really have one. Jesse's not back yet, hasn't been cleared. He would have been. There's some walk-on kids that we'd have to try to manage our way, just to get out of the huddle at that point. Or if we knew it in advance long enough, we'd have to, really would look at Dylan doing that.
As long as Butch is working the service period, would that potentially be enough where you'd feel comfortable playing him against Hawaii?
No, he'll have to do more than that, and he will. We're just kind of being safe with him, bringing him back in. We don't want to re-aggravate, anything with him, because we're just happy to finally have him back out here with us, and he can play so many spots.
You mentioned Dylan, not to give away the game plan or anything, but is the offense a lot different without him than if he were in there?
Well, there is a Dylan factor, like we kind of used to refer to here before with Reggie, that when he's not there or he's banged up, there is a difference. There's things he does that the other guys don't exactly do, and he's very unique. So yeah, we'd be running some different plays if you were playing in this game.
Have you decided he's going to go to Hawaii yet?
He's not. He's going to stay home, get a good start here to the beginning of the semester. Because it's a Thursday game, he'd basically miss almost that whole week of school, so more important for him to stay here, and I think that he's learned his lesson, and I hope that that's extremely hard on him, that he's sitting home while his team's out playing a game and he's watching on TV.
Have you given any of the walk-ons scholarships or anything? Have you made any decisions about that?
Yeah, we have. There's 3 guys. Maybe the one positive thing about the sanction is we have plenty of spots right now for guys on our team that don't count as initials. And so Ross Cummings, Joe Houston, and Abe Markowicz, we put all 3 of those guys on scholarship. So it's great for those guys and for their families.
What about captains? When are you going to select those or have them select them?
Yeah, we'll vote after this game coming up, this game on Thursday. And I just wanted to wait a long time because I think sometimes you vote too early and you got freshmen, they don't really know who they're voting for. They're voting for household names instead of really learning their team. So I hope we're having a better, accurate selection by the team this way.
You talked about learning about your team in the first few games and over the first few weeks. Do you feel like this whole season is going to be kind of a learning experience because there's a lot of, with the scholarship numbers and just a lot of different, maybe unknowns going into it?
Yeah, I think there's always a learning curve in the first year in a program, and having just done that last year, able to experience that, you just don't know certain things. You don't know what's really going to happen in the games until you play with the guys. We learned some valuable things early on. We learned a couple things in the UCLA game at Tennessee last year where we lost, down the stretch, and ended up, there's a couple guys that we counted on in that game that after that game, we went a different direction because we saw what happened when it got tough or we were on a 14-play drive. So those are the things you know about your team when you're in your second and third year because you've done it and found it out already. So we'll have some of that here. carryover guy on the staff. There's not a lot of history with these guys.
What's your impression of the running game so far? I know it's only practice, but you're going to have to see it in the game.
Yeah, it's really hard to tell because of the not tackling. It's sometimes I feel good about it, and then we won't know. If there's anything we're not going to know, it's going to be how are we going to tackle? We don't know, and how are we going to run the ball? Our system in the run game counts on cutting the defense a lot up front. We don't do that in practice or in our scrimmages. Other places we've been before, we actually did that in scrimmages to even though there's a chance of injuries to the defense, we needed to do it. So those are two things that we're not going to know. How are we going to tackle, and how are we going to be able to run the ball until Thursday?
You're very anxious to find that out.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope that we do them extremely well. We'll see.
Is there anything about any players or things about Hawaii that stand out in your mind, and people you have to be concerned about that have already come to your attention?
Yeah, the passing game. They've got great receivers. The one guy, he had 104 catches or something last year. I think they were third in the country, maybe in passing. So they're very dangerous that way. They can put up a bunch of points. And even as you go to the yards, even though there's some games that they weren't winning or weren't necessarily in, they struggled running the ball at times. But look at those yards. There's a lot of 300, 350-yard games in there. They're really good at it, and they're even healthier than normal, getting the other guy back who was hurt last year. So and we basically have a brand new secondary outside of Shree, so I'm sure we're going to have our hands full, and I'm sure they'll test us a lot.
When you first came here, you talked about sustaining the level of excellence that under Pete, and yet you've also talked about how scholarship numbers are down and how much of a challenge it is. I mean, where do you stand as far as what you expect out of this team? Is it somewhere in between those two things, or?
No, that hasn't changed. We didn't know when we first got it. We didn't know the sanctions at the time, and knowing about the guys leaving, or that we'd have guys in our recruiting class that we'd end up letting out of their letters. So that's changed from that standpoint. But nothing's changed as far as our standards. We expect to operate at championship level. We expect our players to be All-Americans. We expect to win every game that we play. And so none of that's changed.
Okay, as much of the challenges of Hawaii, is the setting at all a concern? Just 3 time zones away, a long way away.
Yeah, it's a big concern whenever you go to play, and it's why people have got beat over there over the years. You go over there, you're playing on the turf. Sometimes it can be extremely hot. There can be distractions. It's a hard place to play, and people have learned that over time. And so we're gonna have our hands full, and we got to make sure that we don't stray away from what we're supposed to do, which is play extremely tough and be very disciplined. For whatever reason, over the years, people have had a lot of penalties over there. So we've got to make sure it's a great test for us to establish what we've talked about since the day we got here about being disciplined.
Are you going to work on Loker on the artificial surface over there at all, or just not until you play the game?
No, we're not. Our kickers will go over there, at some point, but we'll stay out here and keep our legs fresh on this. And,
Is Scroggins
we'll go to the stadium the day before.
Close at all, or
we don't know. It's out of our hands, and so the close thing really doesn't. We can't tell that. It's in NCAA, it's in clearinghouse and NCAA, and they figure it out. And there's no way to know whether that's going to happen in 10 minutes from now or 10 days from now.
Who is the officiating crew over there? Do you know?
I do not know yet.
What about Demetrius Wright? Is he?
Same thing. We don't know. He's not been cleared yet, so there's no way to